Let's go.
All right. Anne said she's excited to this because she has a listing appointment later today. Well, look at that. Perfect timing. All right. So I just want to say hi really quick because I want to jump into this because I don't want to get us going any further. So I taught this to our class or to our team a couple weeks ago. We were supposed to do it last week, and then I had a fiasco happen, and you know, life as a business owner and all that, things happen and we had to postpone. So thank you guys for joining us today. We're probably going to be letting a lot of people in kind of as we go. So sorry if that's distracting for people. So I am going to try to find I believe it's this one. Yes. Okay. So there's like 10,000 screens that just popped up on my computer. I don't know what you guys can see, but I can see it all and it's annoying. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and go into my presentation mode. Okay, so mastering the listing presentation. I know this is something that a lot of people struggle with, and we're always looking for other ideas. I'm not saying that my listing presentation is the be all end all by any means. And in fact, I would love to know what other people are doing with their listing presentations, because that's how we learn and grow. And that's where this Modern Agent Blueprint came from, is learning together, growing together, collaborating. So if somebody has another idea that I don't cover, or you have other ideas, please feel free, put it in the chat. I will try. I don't really see the chat when I'm sharing, but Lee or Julie can kind of monitor that. And as we get questions, I'll try and stop. But like I said, I'm going to be rushing through this to try to fit it all in. So I'm just going to get started right away. All right. Can you guys see all this? It keeps saying like so-and-so's entered the room. Can you all see that on your screen?
Yep.
Okay.
No, just the host do. Yeah, just the host see it, so it's
okay,
good.
all right,
Cool.
I just want to make sure that it wasn't showing to everybody. Okay, so let's jump in. So this is going to go through, this is like if you are a brand new agent, some of this, for those agents who've been around for a while, some of this is going to be pretty repetitive, or you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I already know this. But this is going to start out from the very beginning. So whether you're a new agent, a newer agent, or maybe you're getting your feet wet again, maybe you took some time off, or you just want to see how I do things. So starting off with the pre-listing. When I work with clients, I want to try to stand out from the very beginning. So there's a few things that I do that I think really helps with that. So this is like a brief overview. We're going to talk about your first contacts, your seller intake, setting the appointment, pre-listing homework, and your follow-up and what that looks like. So seller intake, this is a very generic form that I use. And I don't even necessarily use this. Once you kind of, know what you're looking for, know the questions that you need to ask, you're not going to need to ask, you're not going to need all these questions all the time. You're going to know a majority of what you need to ask. But your seller intake is gathering info on the house, what the seller's goals are, what their future plans are, and what their why is. That is the biggest thing. What are their goals and their needs to get them from point A to point B? And then how are you going to get them there? Finding out this information is absolutely imperative. You're going to know how to navigate the entire situation once you find out what their goal is. Is their goal to sell their parents' house because somebody, because their dad died and they, need to sell the house, and maybe it's got to go to probate. Not every sale is easy. Not every sale is fun. Some of them can be very bittersweet and sad. So, figuring out and tailoring, your presentation based on what their needs are. Like right now I'm getting ready to close one that's her dad passed away. He bought this house a few years ago to kind of set her up for having money when he passed away. And, this sale is not a celebratory sale. I'm not going to bring her champagne and we're not going to celebrate. It's going to be, this is sad. So I want to be very, I want to be, conscious of what their things are. Now, this is like we just had a baby and now we need to buy a bigger house. This is it's a different situation, right? So we just want to make sure that we're tailoring their why to how we're handling the whole situation from the beginning to the end. So this seller sheet really just gets all the information. Like I said, this is get you all the points, but you don't necessarily need to use this form specifically. You can do this in Trello. You can do this on your phone app. You could have a notebook. I have 10,000 notebooks all over my house with all this information. One thing I will say that I thought was one of the best investments I made was a Remarkable. It's a digital like notebook, and I can have different basically folders for each client. So I can have all of their information in one place, and then I can keep going back to it instead of trying to figure out like which page of my notebook has the notes in it for that one specific client. And Lord knows I have notebooks everywhere. So who knows where that information is? If we keep it all in one place, it's going to make life a lot easier. I also started doing folders, file folders in my office that I just put everything in there, because, you know, as you go to listing appointments, you gather information. You might have the old MLS sheets or whatever. I just started putting them all in folders. That way I have everything. I don't even write on the folder. I put a Post-it note on that top little tab, and then I could just take it off and reuse those folders over and over. But that's where I keep all of my info. So especially if you ever have a question about something specific, you can go back. And so one thing I like about this form, when you're doing your seller intake, figuring out who the point person is, you know, is the wife going to be making all of the decisions, or is the husband the one who wants to be the one to respond to the text, or to, you know, request this or accept the showings? It doesn't, just depending on what the situation is, you want to know who the point person is. I always suggest a group text unless they say otherwise, just to prevent any sort of miscommunication between the two people selling the house, or especially if it's a probate sale or a estate, you know, there might be 6 people. So you might want to put everybody in the same chat. On the bottom, it talks about, is this the one that has it? Well, I don't think this one has it, but one thing I do like to ask is, what do they like to cheers with? So at the end of the transaction, when you go to do a closing, or maybe if you don't do closing baskets, maybe you want to get them a bottle of wine or liquor or champagne. What if they don't drink? It's kind of awkward at the very end to be like, oh, what do you guys drink? So if I kind of ask up front, they're going to completely forget about it. Also, if you don't know if they drink alcohol, they might want to cheers with sparkling cider or Pepsi. You know, it could be anything. So just keep something like that in mind too. You can always add that to your intake sheet. Going into my pre-listing homework email. So once I chat with them on the phone and I've gotten an idea of what they're looking for, what they need, we're going to set up our appointment. So setting up our appointment on the phone, then I'm going to tell them, hey, I'm going to be sending you some pre-listing homework. The email is going to have several different documents in it. What I want you to do is fill out as much as you possibly can before I get there. Don't worry if it's not all done. This is just something that helps me. Seller's disclosures, I'm going to be sending you that as well. If you have any questions about that, just leave it and we'll fill it out together. And then, like a lot of times with certain people, I'll just say, I'm sending it to you now. You can print it out and then we'll do it together. And if you need me to print it out, I'll print it out and I'll bring it. Just let me know. Homeowner sheet, like I want to know what the HOA dues are, age of the appliance. I'm going to show you all this in the next slide, but I want to know all the information about the homeowner, or the home, I should say. And then things to get ready for the meeting, the HOA contact, a key for the lockbox. If you have any surveys or any necessary documents that would be helpful, this is where I want to get that from you. Let me make this smaller. Sorry. I know you guys can't see it, but I can. So getting your home ready for photos. This is one of the documents that I always send. Now they're going to get a couple different things from me about this, but this is the main one. Like this is something that if I make an appointment for next Monday, they're going to have several days to actually work on this. So they can go ahead and, sorry, I'm letting a couple people in there showing up at the top of my screen. They're going to have a little bit of time potentially to actually start working on getting some of these things done. So starting outside, just cleaning the garage, you know, all this stuff. I don't necessarily want to read this whole thing to you, but don't worry. I'm going to be giving you guys a QR code at the end where you can actually get to all of this stuff and you can open it up in Canva and edit it to your own branding. But so this is one of the documents that I email over. This is the email that I send to them. Hi, Joe, looking forward to meeting you at your house at 123 Main. As promised, here is the here's the information. Here's the homework. Your state required seller's disclosure form. And I also tell them, if you guys see this in the second line here, remember, you're answering these questions as does it work, not do you have it or not. That's a big one. Obviously, I'm sure we all see seller's disclosures filled out wrong. And if your state is different on how your seller's disclosures are, obviously tailor this to them. Homeowner sheet, your average utilities. I get it asked a lot. If somebody's moving from a small condo to a bigger house, what's the average utilities? If I have it up front, I don't have to go back and ask my client later. It just makes things a lot easier, and I don't have to keep bugging them for silly things later down the road. And also a list of any updates they've done. Sometimes I'll have people send me, a whole PDF of all of the updates they've done, or a Excel sheet of all the updates they've done, what it's cost, all kinds of stuff. It just depends on that person. But usually I want to go through everything with them to make sure I know all of the updates that they've done since they purchased the home. The tips to get ready for the home, like I just talked about, and things to have ready for the appointment. Then I just say, well, make sure to go through your home and let me know if you have any questions before we meet. So that's the email that goes out, and then they get the seller's disclosure. They get the photos before, or things to get ready for photos. And then here are the other documents that I sent. So all of these, and actually, just so you guys know, I actually edited the template. So the second and third page, these two are actually now on one document. They don't need to be this spread out. So it's all on one document when I get to that point. So, these are all things to know that we're going to want to know, especially things like the items that might be excluded, if there's security surveillance on the property. I took out name on utility accounts because we don't need to know that. Who the water company is, who's the electric, who's the gas, who do they use for trash, or is it covered by the city, or the HOA, and who do they use for internet? A lot of people want to know that they have, Xfinity internet, or do they have to use, Starlink or something? Like, are they going to have to do something extra to get internet out there? If they have flood insurance, annual property taxes, that is usually the one that we can always pull on PRD, but on public record. But sometimes it's different, like if somebody's tax exempt. So we need to just know kind of an idea of what that is. Any HOA fees and who the contact info is, what the HOA includes. This is something that I see missing on the MLS all the time, or what HOA includes. So that will just help our fellow agents know exactly what's covered. Your bill, age of roof, AC, furnace, water heater. Now, some of those things are on the seller's disclosure, but it's nice to have it in one place here too. That way you have them all. And then it works great for when you're writing your listing description. You can reference back to this and say, oh yeah, water heater was just done last year. You can add that in there. I also always ask my clients to give me information about what they love about their home or the community, anything that I think that the buyer would like to know. So that might mean, hold on, hitting the button. So like if somebody loves that it's a great walking neighborhood and they're 10 minutes from Trader Joe's, and there's a great little coffee shop or cute little boutiques downtown and you can walk to it from the house, or it's a 2-minute car ride. Things like that are always great to know, because I can take that one. You'll see what I do later for my listings, but I can use that information in their listing description. And when somebody realizes that you're listening to them and you're writing the things that they're excited about their house and why somebody else should buy their house, they're going to be really happy and feel heard. So after this listing appointment, this kind of jumps ahead for a second, but I always send a thank you note. Usually handwritten. You can use AM cards, send out cards, or Punk Post was one that Chloe Powell had brought to my attention the other day. And now I'm getting like Instagram ads for it, but it looks really cool. It's interesting. The average price I think is about $4 or $5 a card. And then you just pay your postage, but they'll mail them out for you. They look really cool. Much more unique. I feel like AM cards and send out cards can be a little bit bland. So if you're trying to do something like that, and send out cards, I will say too, I had a listing appointment with this adorable little lady, and I wanted to send her a thank you card and brownies. And it took like a week and a half for it to get there. So, keep those things in mind, that there's going to be travel time. So if you're trying to like make a big impression, probably not the best to send something that arrives a week later. Okay, so prepping for the listing appointment. So this is one thing that when I work with my newer agents, when they get stuck trying to find, like if you go on the MLS and you find out that this house hasn't sold and, since 97, there's a problem. You're not going to be able to find as much information. It's not like a house that sold 2 years ago and you can pull up the information. It's all right there, easy peasy. If life was that easy, it would be amazing. Unfortunately, that's just not how it is all the time. So when I start doing my research, I look at the old MLS listings, I look at public record. I do check Zillow because Zillow will have some information like, how many times it's sold, if it's been rented. And especially if I know my clients might be considering, or that somebody might want to rent this property, it's great to know what it rented for previously. Does the sale require a certificate of occupancy? Now, in our city or in our state in Michigan, there's a lot of cities that require certificate of occupancy. And that means that the city has to come out, do a city inspection. They have to pass in order for it to be able to sell. So that's one thing that a lot of sellers don't realize that they have to do. So us as the agent we need to make sure that the seller knows well in advance, hey, you're going to need to do this, get it done right now. Make sure it's finished. You don't want to be dealing with that come close, you're 2 weeks from close and you've just realized that you didn't do it. We don't want any issues like that. I'll look up comps. I'll run a CMA. And when I do my CMA, I look at every photo of the houses and I will make notes of the differences. Now, obviously, most times I've never been in the subject house, so I don't really know necessarily what their house is going to look like. But if I notice, okay, this is, like for like house, they're both ranches, but this one has a brand new updated kitchen, really nice appliances, the basement's finished, it's got a walkout. I'll note all those things and then use that later when I go to the house to say, okay, so your house still has linoleum. This house had, really nice wood floors throughout. So, that's going to affect the price a little bit. That way I already have an idea. I don't have to look, I don't have to like scroll through photos really quick to look to see what the differences are. I can already kind of have an idea of what the main things are that are going to change the value of a home. And I write them down next to all of the houses. Going into my listing appointment, I have a huge folder of all kinds of stuff. So now I don't necessarily have all of this all of the time. It just depends on the situation. But let me scroll here for a second. I want to make sure I can see myself. Okay, so first thing that I always bring with me is a copy of the contract. So I want to bring the contract because if they want to sign with me today, I want them to sign with me today. So I always bring the signed contract. I just don't put the price in there. And I don't put the price because I don't know what I'm going to list it at yet. I want to talk with them about the price. Sometimes I don't go into listing appointments, especially if it's like a funky house or I couldn't really find a lot of comps and I really need to go back and do more research. I am not going to push for them to sign the listing agreement with me that day. I'm going to use this listing appointment to build rapport, to, have them trust me and know that I'm going to make a great decision for them. And so sometimes what I will say is, I'm going to leave you with the contract. You can look it over. The only thing I don't have filled out on here is the price. I need to go back and do some more digging. You have a unique property. I want to make sure that I'm coming up with the best possible price for you. So let me go back. Let me do a little bit of work and a little bit of digging, and I'll get back to you tomorrow morning with a price range and we'll make a decision. And usually they're like, okay, but this gives them time to read over the contract. If they have any questions or any concerns about it, they can actually look at it and have it in their hands. I always bring the old MLS sheet. I don't trust the old MLS sheet because we never know if the agent before was accurate with their information, but I use it as a guide. I bring, let's see, my CMA. So I'll be honest, I don't print out my CMAs because it's like 100 pages. So I usually just have a PDF of it and I go through the PDF with them on my computer. I bring my seller's guide. So they always get the seller's guide. Now, we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to leave it to the side. I don't always do a net sheet. Sometimes I'll print one off and put one in there, but a lot of times what makes them happier is if we come up with the list price and then I do a net sheet. And sometimes I'll do a net sheet of, like, let's say it's 250. I'll do a net sheet at 250, a net sheet at 265, and one at 240, just so then they have a range. So then they know, okay, if my house sells at this price point, this is about what I'm going to make, and have like 3 options. Most title companies have a net sheet calculator that you can use. That's what I do. And I just screenshot the PDF that it comes out with, and I just send it over to them. They're super happy with that. I have a staging guide. Now, this is a very complex staging guide. It can be very overwhelming. And I try to preface that with people and I say, okay, listen, this is a very complex, like there's a lot in here. Don't let this overwhelm you. You've already done 90% of this stuff. Don't let this overwhelm you. Use it for the next couple of weeks. If we're going to list in a couple of weeks, you go over this. This is, just look at it. Like some of it is, do a walkthrough of the house and declutter any shelves, stuff like that. Like some of these things you've probably already done, but this is a great way to go through and check it off. And it'll make you feel better at the end of the day, checking those things off. Home warranty information. I always bring my home warranty guide. It's got the waiver in the back. I don't know how many of you guys are with EXP, but EXP Realty has a partnership with America's Preferred Home Warranty. If you have your clients, let's say they don't want it and you have them sign the waiver and you hold on to these waivers or even upload them into SkySlope, if something happens and you're sued down the road, they will come back and cover some of your legal fees, which I think is a huge deal. But also if they do want to offer the home warranty, I can take the form off the front and they still have the whole booklet to go through what's covered, what's not covered. I like to bring over a home. So there's a lady who works with our group often who is an organizer. So sometimes she can organize things, they can declutter, they can take your stuff to, consignment or to donate. They do a lot of different things. I don't necessarily leave this for everybody, but if we go to a house and, they clearly need some help, or maybe they're elderly and they need some help, I give them her info and something you can do. And I know Julie has done this before. She will actually give them a coupon for their consultation fee to be covered. So Julie will cover that fee and that way they can come out, get the consultation, figure out what needs to be done, and then they can move forward with that. You always like to have these contractors and these people in our back pockets. If you want to do something like a home inspector pre-inspection, Kathy Schaumburger, who's also on our team, actually did a really amazing listing presentation for the Isaiah Colton coaching program. And what she said is a lot of times she will pay for a pre-inspection with an inspector. She will put that in her listing that the home has had a pre-inspection, everything that has been done or everything that came up has been taken care of. Then they will have the inspector come back out, check everything off, and be able to provide this pre-inspection directly to the buyer. What this does is, one, it allows the buyer to potentially not even need to do an inspection because they've already done the pre-inspection and everything has been fixed. So it makes them a little bit more comfortable with waiving an inspection, especially in this market. But it's really only a 5-point inspection. So they don't go through and check every single thing like a normal home inspection would, but not everybody necessarily knows that. But it's a great thing to be able to say this home has been pre-inspected. I know that the company that we use actually has a sign that you can put out in the front yard that says it's been pre-inspected, all kinds of stuff like that. So that's a great way to do things. And that, especially if that they need some repairs done, or if you might think that there might be some issues coming up, it's a great way to kind of nip that in the bud. The blank seller disclosure form, we already talked about that. I like to show some previous marketing that I've done. So I show them like it's like a nice thick cardboard or whatever, stock paper, I don't know what you call it. But this has, some listing photos, some information on the house, and the back has all of the updates they've done and then things they love about the neighborhood. And then I can print this off. I put it in a little acrylic holder on the counters. And then as people come in, they can take it. It's got all the information on the back. I've also done it before. So I had a house that didn't have a lot of updates, but I still wanted to do the front because it was beautiful, but the back was going to have nothing. So what I did is I put the seller's disclosures. I put one up here and one down here. They were kind of hard to read, but it still gave me something to put on the counter for them. I also do a QR code that I leave on the counter. So this right now, this goes to a website. My photographer, they will create a custom website for you. So I do the QR code. So that's got all the house information, all the photos, and then I put the disclosures in a Google Drive. And then this QR code will go directly to that QR or to that drive. So then I don't have to print out a bunch of disclosures and print out a bunch of crap. They could just use the QR code. I also use this at open houses too, because 9 times out of 10, I mean, I'm not trying to print out, 47 pages of disclosures and staple them and have them. And it's much easier just to say, hey, go ahead and scan that. The last open house I did, I had one person who was like, oh, I don't think my phone does that. So I just emailed it to her. I was like, oh, I'll do it for you. And I just emailed it, super easy peasy. Let's see, brochure, card, obviously. Some other things that I bring. I have a booklet for, let me see if the next page talks about this. Hold on. Nope, we'll go back. So I have a booklet from my photographer that's also getting our house ready for photos. They have a lot of that. If they're also buying, I put my buyer's guide in here. There's a lot. I was in Real Producer, so I bought the little like 2-pager thing. So I stick that in there, and I always, it's so awkward to be like, I was in a magazine because I'm the top producer, but if you feel like reading on me, this is it. And I usually like, it's so awkward, but most people are like, you should be proud of that. That's great. So I always like to leave it in there just because it's also like proof, right? It's proof, social proof that I am, a high producing good agent. We also got this awesome guide from a home inspector near us. That's a cost guide. It actually goes over like the average cost of repair. So like patio concrete is rough, and this is pre-COVID, so who knows what these prices are now, but like concrete, $16 to $25 a square foot. Like it's got an idea of things. Now this obviously is probably outdated, but if you have an inspection company that does something like this, it's great to have on hand. And then lastly, excuse me, our MLS, I'm sure other MLSs have this too. You can print out the MLS document that has like all the boxes you check when you do your MLS entry. I print this out and I bring a colored like Papermate pen, and I just go through and I write all the information in there. So I go through and verify all of that information with the seller at the table, making sure that we have everything, because I don't want to trust that this last MLS sheet was correct. So, we don't know if the other agent did the right, put the right thing down. I've come across things so wrong, like no garage, but there's a 2-car garage, or the basement's, the basement is a poured concrete, but it's actually like a Michigan basement or whatever. Like I've come across things so many times that are wrong on here. So I never trust that that is correct. I do verify everything down to there are sidewalks outside, right? Like just making sure that I saw what I saw when I came in, and just make sure you're double checking yourself. There's a chat. Let me see here. Where'd you get your staging guide from? I believe that came from Girls with Grit a while ago. In my QR code though, I'm fairly certain I have a staging guide in there. If not, I can find the link for the Girls with Grit one. So here's some ideas of some other, they're the similar. I use the same template. I just change out the information. The one on the left is my more updated one with the new logos. But I always put everything, as much information as I can on here, and just gives them something to take home with them. So here's some other ideas. So I also will upload like updates to, I'll put all this stuff in the Google Drive, and I upload all of this stuff to the MLS too, just so then everyone has everything. So I don't put these on the MLS, but I'll put like a list of updates, especially if it's an extensive list, I'll put those on there. But just some ideas. And this also helps people because they're like, well, I don't know what to write. So I could say, well, look, it's a quiet neighborhood. It's a pocket. She kept telling me it's a pocket neighborhood. Nobody comes in and out. It's just the people who live here. So that's something that I wanted to make sure I put on there, because obviously that was something that was very important to her. And I wanted to make sure that other people knew that. Okay. Before I go on to this, let me go back. Does anybody have any questions about any of that stuff that I just went over? I know I'm flying through this. I don't know what time it is. Okay. Anybody? I can't see the chat right now for some reason. Julie, you see anything in the chat? I can't see it. It went away. Okay, moving along.
Nothing new except where'd you get the staging guide? I just want to say that not a question, but a comment about what you do up front.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine having all that done up front. Not only are you gathering info, but you just look like you got your stuff together, right? You're asking all these questions. I don't think anybody else is doing that, to be so organized before you've ever even gotten there. Like, okay, I got to find out about my HOA and get some keys together. She's right on top of all of this. You
Right.
know, I
And
feel
it
really
saves,
comfortable that she's uber organized
and it
about it.
saves time when you're at the listing appointment. My listing appointment
100%.
take like an hour, hour and a half as is. If I
Mhm.
also had to wait for them to run around and dig through their file folders to find their HOA and all that.
Their payoff, like you can get their payoff information
Right.
and
I
the
know that
keys. Oh, I don't know
yeah,
if I have a key to my front door. I haven't used a front door in 20 years, you know?
right.
That's
That's one thing
typical.
I don't put in my listings, listing
The
packet,
key?
and I need to, is the payoff authorization
Yeah,
form.
because you can get it signed right there with the name of the, and the loan number, and then you don't have to do that later either.
Yep,
So,
that's actually really smart. I should put that in my homework. That would be a great one to add to the homework.
yeah,
Okay, so when you get to the listing appointment, obviously be on time, greet them with a smile, develop rapport, compliment the house, greet their pet. Greet the pet. Everybody, I have so many people, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry about my dog. I'm like, no, it's fine. And then especially, I mean, I'm not scared of dogs, but you know, unless it's like a big scary one, but you know, 9 times out of 10, they're just like a little fluff ball and they just want to be pet and, you know, greeted. And making friends with the pet, a lot of people trust their pet's intuition. So if you're, you know, if they're like growling and hissing at you, then, you know, that might be a bad vibe with the family member, you know, with the person who's selling the home. So make sure, greet their pet, be really sweet, lovey-dovey. Always say yes if a drink is offered to you. So they are offering you a drink, whether it's water, coffee, whatever. Even if you don't drink it, always say yes, because now they're almost indebted to you, right? So you said yes, they offered you something, you took it. Now, like you're almost gonna, it's a great thing. I've read this a million times. You always say yes if a drink is offered to you. From there, it's always like that awkward, do you want anything to drink or anything? And do you want to set your stuff down? So usually I'll say, yeah, let me set my stuff down. Let me grab my notebook. Why don't we go on a tour of the house? Show me around. So what I do is I take my MLS sheet that I'm going to write on, and I bring my pen and I write notes on the back. 9-foot ceilings. That was a big deal. She was like, oh my gosh, I have 9-foot ceilings. No other houses in this neighborhood have that. I have an extra lot. Like they actually, like this person in particular, she bought a new build and the builder screwed up and actually sold her the lot next door as well without a house on it, but sold the entire lot to her. So she had almost a half an acre in a subdivision where everyone else was on a quarter. So that was like something that she wanted to make sure that I really talked about. But I write notes as they go. So I will ask again on the ages of the roof, the windows, the water heater, pool liner, water softener, jacuzzis, like stuff like that. As you're going through, I'm also looking for problems. And I know that can be a tough spot for a lot of people, but I want to deal with that immediately. I don't want to deal with that after inspection or during inspection. I want to deal with it now. Hey, what's that water stain on the ceiling? Did you have a leak there? And then they'll say, oh gosh, yeah, that was like 10 years ago. And I'm like, we got to fix that. We got to paint that. Somebody's going to look at that and they're going to be worried that that's a new stain. We need to take care of that right now, like before we can list the house. So I'll start talking about things that need to be done, asking them updates. If they have a septic tank, I'll ask them when the last time they had it pumped or the last time they had it serviced, and you know, any of those things, or the well water tested, anything like that. I want to know when those last were, because guaranteed it's going to come up later. I will also suggest that they have their septic tank pumped before the inspector comes out. That way we know that it was clean, it was good, we don't have any issues with it. And then it's clean, you know, or it's, you know, cleaned out for the next buyer. Again, we'll talk about their wants, their needs, what are their timelines, what are their expectations of me as a agent? What do they want? Have they worked with an agent before that they didn't like? Why didn't they like them? What did they like? I want to know all of the details. What their price expectation is. Guarantee they're going to say, oh, I have no idea. And then you name a price and they're like, oh, that's way less than I thought. So I always make a joke with them. Like, you told me you didn't have a price in mind. Like, come on, you know, we all have a price in mind. So like, be honest with me. We can figure this out. And if somebody tells me their price expectation is 50 grand more than what I thought, we can have a discussion about the market trends, days on market. What's going to happen if we overprice the house? We could talk about all of those things. So this is continuing on. So sitting down, going through your listing presentation, go through your guide. So I recommend not necessarily doing things this way, the way I do it. I know that there's a lot of people that no matter who you are, if you're my neighbor, you're my sister, you're a random person who called you off Google, you want to do the same listing presentation every single time. One, it shows that you're professional. Two, it shows that you have your crap together, you know, and they're getting, whether it's your neighbor or your sister, you've known them forever, you still want to show them your level of professionalism. They know you on a different level. So to see your whole listing presentation, I do think is important. I do things slightly different. So depending on the timeline, timeline of like, they told me they only have an hour to do this appointment or whatever, I might slim things down and just go through my seller guide. If I feel like I don't have to necessarily sell myself to somebody, I will just go through my seller guide along with all this other jazz. I might not actually go through and show my listing presentation on my computer. Because especially if somebody, like for instance, this one I have closing tomorrow, they were like, oh, we found you on social media. We looked at your Instagram and your TikTok. We really like you. We're not going to interview anybody else. Well, I don't need to prove myself to them anymore. So I don't necessarily need to go through why I'm the best agent for them. They already know and believe me or believe in me. So I don't necessarily need to do that. So I'm going to streamline things and just go through my seller guide, which breaks down everything. I got this on Etsy, by the way. Pretty much everything I have is from Etsy or a lot of my presentations and stuff. My listing presentation, I will show you, I created that in Canva. So I'll go over my CMA. I will discuss how their home compares to the comps. This is where my notes come in from like I talked about earlier. This is where my notes are going to come into play. I'm going to go over everything that I would recommend for them getting their house ready and discuss pricing their home. And this is where you have to be confident and you have to feel strongly about your professional opinion on the price of their home. So that can be very difficult and I will always tell them pricing a home is the hardest part of this job because I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how the market is going to react to your listing, but I know what the houses have sold nearby. And we don't want to price ourselves out of the neighborhood. And I definitely don't want you leaving any money on the table. So we're going to price your home in a good place where if an appraiser came to look at your home, which they will, they're going to agree with where we are. Now, if we have crazy offers and somebody goes way over, we're going to talk about how to handle that, but that's a completely different situation. I still want to price it where I think it will appraise at. If we get higher offers, that's great. But I want to make sure that if we only have one or two offers and they're right around the list price, I want to make sure your home appraises for what we think it should be at. So this is where I'll usually ask them again, do you have a price in mind? So this is another example. She told me, I was thinking max 285. She told me we'd really like to get 290 out of this house. And I was like, I'm sorry, I was thinking 275. And she was like, I'd really like 290. And I was like, oof, okay. Let me see if I can justify that. Let me go home. Let me do some more research. Let me see if I can find comps that will justify 290. If I can find comps that justify it, we'll do it. If not, we'll talk about it. And she ended up coming back the next day. I didn't even go to her yet. And she was like, you know what? Let's do 284.9. And we ended up getting more than that anyway. And it's appraised and we're good. But it's hard because it's hard to gauge. And that house, the house I'm talking about specifically, was a very difficult house to comp because there's nothing like it anywhere near around it. So it's a tough one. You don't want anyone leaving money on the table, but you also want to make sure that you're not pricing it too high and then it gets stale on the market, and all the reasons why. I also will talk to them about discussing their marketing plan. How am I going to make their house shine and what am I going to do to get their home sold? So we talk about, let me see if I have anything on the next page. No. So I will go over what my marketing plan is. So my marketing plan might look different than yours, but I will tell them about how I list their home on all the different, I list it on the MLS, I share it on social media, I boost the post, I run ads with it, X, Y, and Z, whatever my marketing plan is for that house specifically, I will talk about it. I do not tell them I'm going to do things that I won't do. So if I tell them, like in my marketing plan, if it says I'm going to do a walkthrough video of your home, but then I'm like, oh, this home's kind of crappy, I don't really necessarily want to pay to do that. Or maybe it's not the right house, or it's super outdated or something, and it's not the appropriate plan for that home. You don't want to tell them that you're going to do something and then not do it, because they're not going to trust you. So make sure that whatever your marketing plan is, it is actually what you're going to do. So we'll go over the seller's disclosures together. I'll make sure that they have everything filled out properly. I always bring an extra copy in case they screw it up. Maybe they tried to do it on their own and they messed up the answers. So I'll bring another one. I'll say, don't worry, I got another one. Let's just go through it real quick.
Do you not bring all the paperwork, all the documents?
I don't, because it's
disclosures. Yeah. So just
I
the
usually,
contract and the disclosures, and then you just e-sign the rest.
yep. So I'll tell
Okay.
them, I'll say, we're going to have a lot more, there's a lot more documents to sign, but I'll send those all over e-sign. Those are much easier to do just online. But these are the ones that I like to do in person.
I do them all. So I don't know what the consensus is. I just do them all so that I can go through all of them with them, but
Yeah, I mean, that's a great, like I said, mine is not maybe the best way for everybody. And
it's quicker and less overwhelming.
Yeah. And I will say, depending on the age bracket of the client too,
Yeah.
if they're older, you might not everything that way. I've had plenty of clients who want a copy of every single thing that they sign, and they want printed out PDF of everything. And, that's fine. I'll do that, but I just typically don't. It just depends. I mean, if I had one who was a very elderly lady, I did print out everything because she needed to hand sign everything. So It was just much easier for me to do it that way. So again, that goes into gauging how your appointment, what that appointment's going to look like, gauge on, their needs and wants. Right. So I always tell them, okay, because we are kind of, as we're wrapping up, I'll say, okay, next step, we can sign the contract, or you can look it over and I'll get back to you tomorrow with the price or whatever it may be. We could sign the contract and we can come up with your timeline. A lot of times what I'll do before I even say, let's sign the contract, I'll say, all right, when would be a good day to do your photos? I can book it right now. And I'll book the photos right then and there. And I'll say, okay, your photos are booked for next Tuesday at 11 a.m. I'm going to need to get all the listing documents signed. Do you want to go ahead and sign the contract now, or do you want me to send it over e-sign? And then usually they're like, no, let's just sign it now. Or they, depending on the situation, again, we're gauging the situation based on how it looks. Come up with the timeline. Photos are Tuesday. I'll have them back Wednesday. I can have the house on the market by Thursday. Does that work for you? Let's talk about, do you need to get out of the house for the weekend? What are the next steps? How does showing time work? Explaining to them how they want to handle that. Do they want it go and show? Do they want it? Do they want to have to approve each showing? Do they want to just leave for the weekend and maybe we do an open house on Saturday and blah, blah, blah. Come up with the timeline and the marketing plan. When am I going to put the sign in the yard, the booties in the basket, trash can at the door? So for those of you who don't do this, I bought a cute little sign from All Things Real Estate that says, please remove your shoes. This might be your next home or something like that. I put that with a little basket that I got. You can go, excuse me, I have hiccups all of a sudden. I've gotten cute little baskets from the Target dollar spot, which isn't $1 anymore. It's like $5 now. But the little dollar baskets, you can go to the dollar store and get them. Or I love TJ Maxx and Home Goods. I just bought a 3-pack of, actually I could show you. They're right here. I got like a little 3-pack of baskets for $14.99, and I could put all my little shoe booties in here, hand sanitizer, masks, depending on the concerns of the client. And I get a little trash can. You can get little cheap trash cans, especially around like college time when people are going away to school. You can buy that stuff for so cheap, like $2 for a little trash can. And then I just put it next to the door. That way you don't have to worry about people leaving their booties, their dirty booties in the basket where you got it. It's so gross. Put all your booties in here. You can get your booties online at Amazon, on Amazon. I always leave my little sign for everybody. And then depending, like during COVID, I think we were doing things a little bit differently. I actually had a full sign about, how the protocol, please, do this, do that. My client is immune. So, she has a suppressed immune system. Please don't touch anything, like all those things. I mean, obviously, again, this goes into their needs. You can go over the contract with them, come up with a number that you both agree on, have them sign it right there. If they want to hold off, ask them what their hesitation is. And obviously you want to try to get them to a yes. If their hesitation is, oh, I just want to think about it a little bit. Sometimes you got to be a little bold. You could say, well, what is it that's holding you back from signing today? Is it that you want to talk to other agents? Because that's fine if you want to talk to other agents, but I'd like to know what you think you're going to find with somebody else other that you won't find with me. And I don't typically need to have that conversation, but it's one thing that you kind of have to be bold about and be very strong about it. But I will leave them if they say, you know what, I just want to look it over and I'll talk to you in the morning about it. I'll say, okay. And I'll leave the contract. I'll call them in the morning. I'll let them know, hey, I'm going to send over all the listing documents. Do you have any questions about anything before I do that? And then we can also come up with the price at that point because I've already done my homework. So handling objections, I want to interview other agents. So kind of how to address these. I just talked about that one. Will you reduce your commission? That's a tough one. I'll tell you a couple of my situations. Occasionally I have reduced my commission. I don't like doing it. I usually tell them that I don't do it. I've had conversations where a guy asked me to reduce my commission. And I just said, you know what? I don't do that because I would never ask somebody else to reduce their hourly rate or their salary to do their job. And then I just stood there and we both kind of just stood there and it was so incredibly awkward. But the longer that you can be silent, the more they're thinking about it and going over in their head. And he was like, all right, okay. That's fine. And then I ended up double ending that deal and he did not ask me to cut my commission at all through the whole process. So, he understood the, where I was coming from. And I mean, I understand where he's coming from too, but I mean, in certain situations, when you're up against other agents who are going to do it for less, it's kind of hard to say no. But obviously know your worth and make sure that what you're doing and how it's going to affect things. I mean, we actually just had a conversation the other day about agents in my area who will charge 6% or even higher than 6% and still give out like 2.5 to the buyer's agent and take the remaining. And to me, that just feels so wrong, but I know that so many people do it. It's kind of crazy. I closed a deal that my commission was $5,000 less than hers. And I was like, did I do my math wrong? What was I doing? And they're like, no, that's correct. And I was like, yikes. Okay, well, good for you, I guess, like, holy crap. Because it was definitely more than 6%. So same thing. Another agent said they'll do it for less. Okay, well, what are they not doing for you? And you can use your stories, right? You know what? I actually just did a deal with one of those discount agents. And let me tell you, I could not get a hold of them for anything. Even when I was trying to talk to them about what my client was going to write an offer, I couldn't even get a hold of them. So that's really important to know that you're working with an agent who's going to answer the phone, whether it's for you or other agents. A lot of times those discount brokers, they will let every call go to their voicemail. They won't return calls. And I'm telling you what, it will make it so that you get less money in the end because they're not negotiating on your behalf at all. So kind of like, putting that doubt in their head a little bit about why they should not be looking at other people. What if my house sits on the market for a long time? We could talk about what's your strategy. In this market, not so much. I mean, I do see houses that are sitting for a while, but what is your strategy behind that? Okay, we're going to do a price reduction every blah, 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 whatever it may be. Maybe if we took the photos in the winter and there was snow and now it's spring, we want to take new photos. Maybe we need to do that. Maybe we need to refresh it. Maybe we got to look at some of this feedback and fix some of the things that people are complaining about. Just depending on what is going on, we will try to navigate that the best we can. We already talked about that. We want to think about it before we sign. Have you ever sold in this area or price point? So this is a tough one, especially for a new agent, or if you're going way above your normal, like your average price point. If you're part of a team or a group, lean on those numbers, lean on their experience. It is really tough. You know, I have one specifically. I did not win the listing appointment. This was several years ago, but it was $1 million house. And the most I had ever sold was like 400. So it was incredibly discouraging to me when they were like, have you ever sold in this neighborhood or at this price point? And I mean, I did say, I personally have not, but I have, you know, my team have, and, you know, we're going to be working on this house together, blah, blah, blah. They ended up going with somebody who sells every house in that neighborhood, but so I didn't feel so bad, but it was discouraging. So kind of practice, especially if you know you're going into a neighborhood or into a price point that you're not familiar with. Maybe talk to another agent who does a lot of homes at that price point. Ideally, somebody in your market who does homes in that price point, not somebody who's like, you know, if I talk to somebody in, I don't know, California, whose normal price point is 1.5 million. And this is, my normal is 200, and it's going to be a different conversation because that's like the norm for them. So talking to somebody who has experienced the same way that you do. I don't want to pay any extra fees. So, I don't know how many other people have brokerage compliance fees or transaction fees or whatever. You know, you can determine on whether you want to reduce that fee or not. In some cases, when you're on a team or in a group, you might not be able to have any say over those fees. As an individual agent, I do have that say. I'm allowed to make those changes if need be, but I will always put it back on the broker. I need to discuss this with my broker. I need to talk to them and see if I can get if they'll agree to us lowering that, and then come back to them. Usually any sort of reduction makes them happy. But at the end of the day, that's money in your pocket. So you can just say, I'm sorry, I can't change that price, you know, maybe, or credit them back or something. I don't know. There's different ways you can obviously work things out with people. But just practicing some of these objections, there's a lot of good trainings on handling objections. So get really good at being confident in who you are, what you offer, and how to handle some of these tougher conversations. So this is the cover. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to stop. I don't know if I can just change screens or not, but I'm going to show you guys my listing thing here really quick. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry, my daughter texted me and it freaked me out for a second. So I'm going to show you guys my listing presentation really quick. And I know we are at noon and I want to hurry up and get us over. If anybody has any questions, you can throw them in the chat. I am going to share my other screen. Oh, it's still this one. Hold on. I just need to go to the other. All right. So this is my, listing presentation that I go through. So I just made this in Canva. Oh, it's super grainy. I don't know if it's grainy on you. It's probably because of Zoom, but this goes through my whole listing presentation. I'll run through it really quick. My ultimate strategy that will get your home sold for top dollar. This talks about me, who I am, some fun facts about me, my kids, although that photo is super outdated. But that I am a top real estate agent on social media in Michigan, 5-star ratings on Google, Facebook, and Zillow. I teach agents and realtors how to build their business on social media. And I need to add in here, I do have icon agent up here, but I need to add like 2-time icon agent, you know, featured in top, Real Producers Magazine, or any of those accolades that you can add. That's just going to be social proof for why these people should go with you. If you guys have the HomeSnap app, you can get a map like this that shows you all the houses that you've sold. In fact, this is not all of them. This one is a little outdated, but this will show all of the houses that you've sold. So you can say, oh, look, I've sold homes across Michigan from Waterford to Temperance, Parma to Berlin. You know, just so people have an idea of like the range that you go. This is great to be able to show that you're not necessarily, you've only sold 5 houses and it's only where, I mean, obviously if you've only sold 5 houses, be proud of that still, but you might not want to put you might want to change it or not necessarily put something like this in there. Just put a picture of Michigan or whatever it may be. tailor it to how you want. And I mean, in the very beginning, I didn't have this in my presentation because I didn't have the numbers to support it. But what I did have was the numbers of our team. And I did put information about the team. I just didn't have a map. So obviously tailor it to your preference. This goes over the timeline, prepare it, advertise it, negotiate, show it, sell it, etc. This goes into preparing your home for sale. How long have I been in real estate? Am I full-time or part-time? What's my list to sold ratio? I get that from my MLS. And that has to update. Like during COVID, it was like 110% or something like that, because everything was selling way over asking. But this is an average of your home sales. And then these are my guides too. So, you know, my branding photos I have in here, discussing that buyers make a decision within 8 seconds if they're interested in buying your home. So we need to make sure that it's amazing in those 8 seconds. So walk through the home, walk up to the door. Are there cobwebs? Are there, you know, issues with the front porch or whatever? Let's figure out how we can address those before we get started. This talks about staging your home. I have staged homes several times myself. I also have had home stagers help. If I need a lot of furniture, I need a lot of stuff, depending on the situation. The pros and cons. I mean, I can say 100% that the homes that I have staged have sold faster and for more money than they probably would have otherwise. And I have stories that go along with that and explain how one of my clients tried to sell his house 3 times previously, couldn't get it sold. I came in, helped him pick paint colors, get rid of the ugly carpet. And he listened to every decision that I made. And then I staged the home with my own stuff. And we sold his house with multiple offers within the first weekend on the market. And he still jokes all the time that I can sell the unsellable. So it makes me really proud to know that I was able to do that for him. But having those kind of stories like that is really powerful in situations like this. This is talking about price point. And I don't know what print and newspaper even has, right? Like who even looks at print or newspapers anymore, but definitely not for real estate buyers. But most people are going to be finding your house on the internet. So we need to make sure it looks fantastic. And then this is funny. I don't really understand this whole thing because your real estate agent is sending you the home online. So technically it's still internet, but maybe they're looking at internet as like Zillow or whatnot. Advertising your home. So this talks about actual photos that I found on the MLS. I hope this is nobody on this call's house photos, but they look like trash. And I will tell you that to your face. These photos are trash. And this is what drives me insane. If you guys follow me on social media, you know that cell phone photos and crappy photos like this are the bane of my existence. Somebody's being paid a commission, and a healthy commission at that, for listing your home. 100% it matters who you work with. So then I go in to show my photos. This is the unsellable house right here. This picture, I don't know if you can see it, it's hanging on my wall right now, but how I talk about how listing photos, professional photos, are so incredibly important that you absolutely need them in order to have a, you know, good price point. I'm shocked by the amount of $1 million homes I see with crappy photos. It just blows my mind. Marketing matters. This talks about all of the different things that I do for my listings, how we're going to handle showings, etc. Just kind of goes through everything. This talks about all the contingencies. I don't need to go through those. Next steps. Again, we go over the next steps one more time. And then that's the end of it. I mean, it's a pretty quick presentation, but I used to have way more pages in there. And I was like, this is boring everybody to death. I do not want to have these in here. So again, sometimes it's going through your listing presentation a few times and realizing what changes you need to make, what questions people are asking, how you can add those things in there. So then you're answering it before they ask. So I know that was quick. Well, it feels like it was quick to me, but it was about an hour and, well, actually about an hour because we started about 7 after. What? Oh, I didn't give you guys the QR code. Hold on. Backtrack. Give me 1 second. Stop. How do I make this presentation stop? All right, hold on. Oh God, don't judge me by my tabs. I closed out my thing. Hold on. All right, let me stop the share because I'm screwing things up now. If anybody has any questions, this would be a great time to ask. I'm gonna pull that back up. And I'm not still sharing. Okay. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. I'm gonna pull up that document again so you guys can get that QR code.
Nicole, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. What do you use for your CMA? I've seen so many different variations, and that's one thing I've never fully felt comfortable with, is like how I present a CMA.
So I use my CMA from my MLS. I will say though that I've tried all of them. I've tried as many as I can. I have tried Cloud CMA. I didn't like it. And then I heard somewhere that with Cloud CMA, especially like in California and stuff, that people were actually selling that information. So if I ran a CMA for 123 Main, all of a sudden 123 Main would be bombarded with people sending them CMAs, dropping by their house, door knocking, and basically trying to steal that listing. So I stopped using Cloud CMA together. So now I just use the one through my MLS. And I mean, I don't know about your MLS, but ours, we have many different pages we can choose from. I pick and choose the pages I want. I don't necessarily.
Are you on Real Comp?
I am. Oh, this is Emily. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't know who it was at
Yeah.
first. Yeah, in Real Comp, I just do it through there. And
Okay.
I mean, it comes down to picking the right, I mean, to be honest, it comes down to picking the right comps. If you have the right comps, you don't even need a CMA. You just need the comps to be able to show the price differences. So, I mean, and sometimes I've done that. I've just said, here's the comps. I think we could list within this range. And you don't even necessarily need an entire 60-page book of, you know, why they should list their home, because a lot of it, the ones that I was printing and doing for a while were so repetitive. It's the same data on 20 different pages. So I narrow it down. I'll show you one day the ones that I use, but I narrow it down, and there's really only, all I do is put out the photos of the houses, the data on them, and like it's like a summary page or something. And that's what I use. I don't go through all of the, you know, suggested things and, you know, why use an agent. Like there's a lot of pages in some of the CMAs that I see that I don't like.
Yeah. Okay.
I do the same, Emily. Like it's old school. I just find the best comps. And then like Nicole said, pick and choose. Because there's a lot about if you price your house high, if you price it low, if you price it, you know, like those triangle graphs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And every photo of every comp, like it's just too much, you know. It's but you can use it though to say, you know, a comp has an extra bathroom or lacking a bathroom, then you can do your adjustments there. So I like to do that and show them why, you know, I came where I did. Like I adjusted for a 3-car garage or a detached versus attached or something like that. But if it's pretty cookie cutter, a lot of times you don't even have to make adjustments. Just depends.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm still trying to get this stupid CMA, or not CMA, this stupid thing to come up. I'm just going to share it like this because it's being a freaking pain. Oh,
And
no, there it is.
Nicole, Tammy asked where you print your guides. Do you do like
Print them?
Yeah, Office Depot or Canva?
I usually do Staples. So like these ones were Staples. Although I will say my old or like these ones are like a much better cardstock almost than this one. This one's more like glossy pages, and I feel like this is just hardier. So that, can you guys see my screen? You guys can see that, right? Julie, can you see it?
No, it says you're screen sharing, but it's black.
Oh gosh, because I'm in the wrong screen. Hold on.
You'll get it.
God.
There you
Okay,
go.
how that, or how that, I'm tired. This is a lot.
How that.
So this is QR code will give you a majority of the resources. I cannot give out the staging guide because I paid for that. A lot of these things are things that either I've created or I found on Canva that I liked. None of them are exact. This came from Etsy. If you guys are not using Etsy for some of your stuff, you're missing out. If you just go to Etsy and type in seller's guide, listing presentation, buyer's guide. Sometimes you can buy like a 3-pack and it'll have buyer's guide, seller's guide, listing presentation, and then you're branded across the board. Makes life so much easier. You'll have everything that you need in one place. Makes life a lot easier. And you look put together. All right. I know, I mean, and there's a lot of places too, you can get, if you have like a custom printer near you, you might be able to get better deals. Staples is fine. I usually print it. I don't mail them to me because it takes like 2 weeks for them to print and mail something. I usually just go and pick it up. And usually it'll say, it'll be ready in 2 days, and I'll get a text like 2 hours later. And it's like, your stuff's ready to be picked up. So I do that. Same thing with like, well, that I print out at home, but, like these guys, I print out. And I will say the guy gave me a pro tip and said, don't print, go to like, there's options that you have on the choice of papers, or like you can go in and it'll be like, one of the tabs is actually real estate, and it'll say like real estate flyer. If you print out the flyer, you're going to get like the cheaper paper. But if you go into documents and you have many other options for your cardstock. But I like this thick one. I think it just looks better. It doesn't slouch down in the acrylic stand or anything like that. Are we all good with the QR code? Can I come off share? I think we'll share all this. Don't worry. Any other questions from anybody before we wrap up? Like I said, I got to get to a nail appointment. So anybody? All right. Well, I hope that this was super helpful for you guys. Again, this is not the be all end all. I'm not saying my listing presentation is the best. I'm sure that there's other people who have really cool ones. Do I pay for professional staging? Do I pay for it for my clients? I have not. However, I did buy all the staging stuff to stage my client's house, but I bought a majority of it on Amazon and then I just returned it. So literally like,
but just light staging though, like just little.
Well, I staged one. So I already had, okay. So for this house in particular, she had the house. I'll give you the quick rundown. She had the house on the market for almost 6 months. Didn't realize she could cancel her contract with the agent who wasn't really doing much to get the home sold. We finally got her out of that contract. Well, she waited till it expired and then I took the listing. I suggested that she do home staging. She is moving across the country, didn't want to spend the money. And I was like, I kind of got the vibe that she would not pay for it either. So I just was like, you know what? The house doesn't need a lot. So I went out, I bought a rug. She had a futon in her kitchen, in her living room. It looked like a couch, but it was a futon. So I bought like a nicer futon cover, a couple pillows, the only thing I actually returned was the futon cover. I kept all the other stuff. I bought some pillows, a throw blanket. I did buy a coffee table on Amazon, a $50 coffee table. It looks amazing. It's so nice. And then I just went to Home Goods and bought like a little like tray and a couple things to put on the count on her living room. And I bought a rug at Home Goods. I can't remember if I said that already. Put it all together. It looked phenomenal. It looks so much better. I already had white bedding from a previous house that I staged. So the unsellable house. So I threw that on her bed. I brought over extra pillows because she had one pillow. Like this lady slept on one pillow. I was like, I have like 6 on my bed. Anyway, so I brought over a bunch of pillows. Obviously you can get pillows at Target for like $4 a piece. I just went to TJ Maxx and I got all that stuff. I bought a whole bed set for $25. And then I bought like the big square pillows. I bought 2 of those for $22 together. I just look at the clearance sections, white everything just to make sure it's nice and crisp, white towels, white everything. I mean, she had some of that stuff, but she did have this like little funky twin bed in one of the rooms she really wanted this purple blanket on there. And no matter how much I tried to talk her out of the purple blanket, she wanted it. So I just found like a little throw pillow to put on the bed to kind of make it make sense. And I returned that throw pillow cover when I was done with it because I'm not going to use it again. And nobody touched it. It was a spare bed. So anyway, long story short, I have paid for my own staging. I have not paid for a professional stager to come in. However, I if I recommend it, usually I will connect them together. So like if I even bring it up, I'll say, hey, I'm going to connect you with the stager. Her name's Renee. She's great, blah, blah, blah. I put them in a group text together, and then they can go about their business and talk about it. Then I at least know my client's listening to me and they're doing the thing. Even if she comes out and just does a consultation, at least they'll feel better. And in some situations, it's 100% necessary. So the one that I used, they had like no furniture. So they needed a lot of stuff in there just to make it show better. So, but I do know people who have paid for their own staging just to get the deal done and to get it going and to take that cut in order to, get the W in the end, Let's see. Great information. Thank you so much. You guys are so welcome. Anybody else have any last questions here before I go? I will put this presentation in the file section of the group. If you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully all of the templates work in Canva. If you have any questions or if something's not working, just shoot me a DM either on Instagram or Facebook. And hopefully you guys can crush your next listing appointment and take some of my pro tips here and turn them into a good win for you. And I'd love to hear it. If anyone used anything that I talked about and it helped them get their listing, I would love to know about that. So, all right, everybody, have an awesome day. You're so welcome. Bye, everybody.